All right, we are live. If you're joining, we're gonna give a few minutes before we get going. Get some people come on here, and then we'll rock and roll.
Nice.
I'm gonna send out the live link out. It's on Colorado Mountain Man Survival Facebook page. I'm gonna go ahead and share this. Donny, I'll try to share this to your page if I can. I have to figure this out here. Technology, you got two knuckle draggers trying to bash our way through technology here.
Yeah, I set my phone up on a tripod. It's about as technical as I got today. That's it. That's it.
Donny, while I'm doing this, if you, I mean, most people know you, but you want to introduce yourself
sure.
while we get going, so we're not just listening to dead space.
Yeah, so howdy, everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name is Donny Dust. I run Paleo Track Survival here in Monument, Colorado. And this is totally a new thing for myself. My friend Jason, who runs Colorado Mountain Man Survival, is kind of hosting, and we're trying to brainstorm some options to make sure that folks can still get some skills and get some knowledge, skills, and abilities out there. So, that's it. This is a new phase in the survival world, so to speak.
It's about improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's what we do.
Marine Corps. That's what that says. Yeah. And I know right now in the state of Colorado, they have issued that all people outside of their home, going to the grocery store, going for a walk, doing whatever, now has to wear a cloth mask to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So,
yeah, and I honestly think that's a great idea. Me and Donny were talking about this earlier. The mask doesn't help you as the person that you're wearing it, but it helps if you are sick. It helps everybody else out. And the bad thing about Corona is it takes 2 weeks for it to show up, roughly 2 weeks for it to show up. So you could be contagious for 2 weeks and spreading it throughout throughout everybody that you've come in contact with. So it's not about protecting you. It's about protecting your loved ones, your friends, your family, and everybody else that's out there.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move on behalf of the governor. Truly.
Why? Yes.
I could have done it 3 weeks ago. I know a lot of people were.
Yeah.
But, I think people are now worried about kind of the stigma associated with a mask. So are they going to be socially shamed if they don't have a mask, or are they going to be considered to have coronavirus because they are wearing a mask? We're going to have to get to that kind of like very unique social kind of nuance of it's okay to have a mask.
Yeah. I mean, it is awkward. Honestly, I go out and I wear a mask and I just feel weird. I feel like everybody's looking at me, but I'm to the point now where I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It's going to,
it's going to be the new norm.
Yeah.
I think people will have problems if you're wearing those masks that have like skulls and like gnarliness that are very aggressive in nature. People might be like, all right, that's a little much, but I mean, I don't know.
That's designer masks.
Yeah. Masks. Right?
Yeah.
I think I saw someone selling, wasn't it during the plague, those like masks with the long like beaks and the big beady glasses.
That was, it was for the Black Plague, was it not?
Black Plague, yeah. And that's what like the people that were removing the bodies would wear or something like that. Yeah. So now people are selling those online. Jeez, people.
That's a little far. That's going a little bit too far, maybe freaking people out a little bit. No, I don't want to watch that together. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out some of this technology stuff. Just a couple more minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get going, and we'll just deal with me not getting this technology figured out.
I'm the last person to judge that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I should be somewhat decent at it, but when you're in the spotlight trying to get things going right away, it can be a little bit difficult.
I'm just on an iPhone. It's about as technical as I got. No worries.
One more. We'll do one more share here, and then we'll rock and roll.
Right on.
I just want to try to reach out to as many people as I possibly can. Just get out to as many people gain some knowledge.
I wonder what's. Have you heard anything about the hunting seasons? Are they closing down turkey season at all? Or?
I've not heard anything solid,
Really?
but
I hope not.
me too. We need to go get some
Yeah.
bird.
I'd like to get a couple gobblers, get some more feathers. But I heard. Well, I know the 7th or the 8th is, I think, for your last day to submit for draw. But yeah, I'm worried. Like they're gonna start closing the springtime turkey. I think springtime line starts April 11th as well. I'm not
8 days away.
20th, something like it's close. So I'm hoping they don't.
Yeah.
Because I need like a good bird or two every year.
You need a nice turkey mount on the wall behind you because you don't have one of them.
I've got my last 2 feathers right here. So many of them go to kids love them, and they're turkey, But I need a good bird this season. Small game, I did pretty good. Took a lot of squirrels and rabbits, that sort of jazz. So,
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get going. I'll do a quick introduction for those of you that join me from Donny's page that don't know me. I'm Jason. I'm the owner of Colorado Mountain Man Survival. This survival university. For whatever reason, that's kind of hard to say. But I'm Colorado native. I grew up here. A lot of people believe I have a military background. I don't. I'm not former military. My father was military, so I get that my style from him, I suppose. I grew up in a small mountain town. Most of his friends were military. I've been around military people probably my entire life, so that's why I kind of talk the way that I do, and I know
your beard
terminologies. My beard, I've heard I kind of roughly look like Chris Kyle. I don't see that at all, but
okay.
I don't know about it, but more of the Green Bay Packers quarterback, whatever his name is. But anyways, I grew up in the mountains. This whole survival prepping, I hate that word, is just a way of life for small towns. It's just the way we do things. So the whole doomsday prepper stuff is crazy, but it's a normal way of life when you grow up in these small mountain towns, and hunting and fishing and skinning and trapping and all that stuff is just the way you do things. And you come to the city and everybody thinks you're a crazy man. Well, we are slightly crazy, but that's okay. But that's me in a nutshell. Donny, you want to give a little info about yourself?
Yeah, so Donny Dust. I own and operate Paleo Track Survival in Colorado. So I do have a military background. I was in the Marine Corps for several years. I was an infantryman there. Kind of similar to Jason in many ways. I wasn't born in Colorado, but I moved here when I was really, really young, and just spent my entire days outside roaming around, hunting, fishing, trapping. It's just one of those things that kind of has always been part of my life. The military reinforced it. My own curiosity reinforced it and led down different, pathways as far as my interest in the outdoors. And there's just a degree of, I would like to say, kind of common sense for folks that maybe aren't preppers, but they're just prepared in a sense of, when you live in Colorado, we had snow yesterday. And the last thing I want to do is run out to go get a bag of rice because, somebody has a craving. So it's just a common sense approach of being prepared. And I think a lot of people in Colorado are, but then there's a lot of people that aren't. And we've kind of seen it in some of these local stores. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, I always like to say you kind of grow where you're planted. And I think when people come here, they kind of can adapt to this new environment, or they choose to just kind of grow their own way. And I think some folks are kind of learning a lesson right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Colorado is growing at a rate of, I've heard 10,000 people per month. That's 120,000 people per year. And a lot of people coming from California or Texas or warmer climates, and they're coming here and they're finding out that our winters are very different than our summers, because Colorado is beautiful during the summer, right?
Yeah.
And then come winter, it'll get you. It'll sneak up on you and get you. So people that have lived here for a fair amount of time, we're used to the weather. We're used to the rapid changing climate. So when we head out into the hills, we're prepared for that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today, up to including the COVID-19 stuff. But the nice thing about me and Donnie, we do run classes together from time to time. We kind of, we're both independent. We work our own things, but when we get together, it's like magic. I know it seems like we play off of each other. It's really great.
We're like-minded in many ways. And, it's very important to say that, in a community like where we're at in Southern Colorado and Central, all over Colorado, it's great just to work with people that have a similar focus, because you can deliver a bigger picture. You can deliver a whole different kind of approach to the outdoors, and, really provide people different knowledge, skills, and abilities. And that's what just Jason and I do. We work well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
We got a question, not to be off track, but has what border closed yet? The state highway. I haven't heard anything about borders closing down. Have you?
No, I haven't heard of anything really closing.
No.
I can't imagine they would issue a closure unless there was like 24, 40-hour notice to allow people to finish travel and do what they need to do.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to have to. Something extreme is going to happen, I think, for the states to close borders down. I think they're trying to keep. I don't know what's happening out East Coast. I really don't know. New York is not letting people leave the city, stuff like that. But nothing like that is happening here. I think they're discouraging people from leaving Denver and heading out to the small mountain towns. And the locals in those small towns don't really want people coming through. But there's nothing saying that they can't.
Sure.
No, but you should really respect the stay-at-home order. Stay put. You don't know if you're sick or not. Don't spread it. Just stay in your home.
Yeah, I can tell you that. I mean, personally, that is so hard for me to stay home. Like one thing I've done to mitigate some of my stuff is I know who I come in contact with and who they come in contact with, and I've created a very small inner network of like 3 people, 2 of them being my own sons, of people that are coming in contact with anyone. So I do go outside, but I go outside to, go hiking more or less to isolate myself through disposition than to try to like socialize with people. So for me, I'm trying to find that balance, because I have to get outside. I cannot. It's been difficult. Woo! It is so hard. Holy cow, it is so hard.
Yeah, and with me, I live in El Paso County, down in Colorado Springs, and where I run my classes is up in Teller County, up in the mountains. So, I can't. If I were to run a class, I have to leave my county, and there's nothing restricting me from doing that, other than my own ethical belief that I don't want to spread this. But if I do go on the mountains, I'm not going to go somewhere in close contact with other people. I'm driving through the towns and going to my destination out in the woods and doing my thing.
And let's be honest, where you and I go, most people don't.
Right.
That's the other kind of like luxury, is that I'm like, I might park my truck somewhere, but I might walk 2 days in, and through that 2 days, I'm not going to come across anybody. So it's finding that balance. But, I think that for me, I see indications and warnings that in the state of Colorado, they're putting these steps in place that are going to say, hey, we're taking actions. If those numbers and cases aren't reduced, we're going to take more actions and more actions and more actions. So I think stay at home is the first kind of step, social distancing. Now we're wearing masks. If those numbers don't drop, it's going to be a complete lockdown, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, and as you see, I just put up on the screen, Bill Hodges, I guess he's in Utah. He's saying that the police are
tickets,
chasing people out, which, I mean, fair, This is scary times, really, kind of, and you do have to respect other people's boundaries. And by getting out in the woods and potentially invading other locations, you are not respecting those boundaries. But I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, really. But
well, I mean, every state has their laws, rules, and regulations. I mean, handed down at the state level by the governor. So if he's like, hey, we don't want anyone coming from Colorado across on the 70, I mean, that's their rules. You play by those rules or you don't play.
Right. And, you know,
You know, so,
if you want to fight the constitutional fight right now, you're right. You know, it is
sure.
against our constitutional right to lock us down and to not let us travel from state to state. But at this point, I don't necessarily think it's about the Constitution. It's about keeping people safe right now. Fight that battle when the virus dies down. Then we can worry about fighting that battle. But right now, we need to look out for ourselves and the people that we love and the people we interact with.
Question ties to like, where are you going? Aside from going out in the bush, maybe you're going to go get like a loved one or something like that. But I mean, nothing's really open. There's no tourism, which is a huge factor, is closed. Yosemite's closed. Grand Canyon's closed. A lot of these bigger parks that are drawing the numbers are closed. So it's kind of, you know, if you got to cross the border, what are you crossing for?
Right.
You know, some sort of like nefarious or surreptitious action. I mean, I think who was talking about drugs or something like that? Like drugs are now gonna. Wasn't it President Trump or something like that? It was talking about I don't know.
I don't watch the media usually.
Yeah.
And, you know, I try to stay away from the drama. It just makes things worse, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But I think what people right now are doing is potentially bugging out. The problem is, if you're going to bug out per se properly, you need to have a bug out location that is your own. You know, so now you're bugging out and you didn't have a solid plan. So now you're bugging out into somebody else's bug out location, and they're not going to want you there. And if they were planned properly, and if they're a scary person, you know, it could go bad. So it's best for you to either stay home, bug in, or bug out to the place that you belong, not to a place that you don't belong, if that makes any sense.
I mean, you can't, I mean, God, if you're looking to like truly bug out to a location your own, cool, you're on your pathway, awesome. But if you're looking to go to like a national park and like set up a camp, you'll get sniffed out in a heartbeat. I mean,
right.
Because you're going to stay close to your vehicle. You're going to look for those like key things like water, shelter, those sort of natural barriers that will prevent wind and exposure. But somebody else is looking for those too. I mean, you're going to get sniffed out in about a heartbeat. Where it works effectively is if you're an individual by yourself and you're traveling light, low key, you're kind of using more of an escape and evasion sort of concept to go to a location. But I mean, you've been out in the bush, you can smell a fire 4 miles away. You can see a fire, you know what I mean? Start cooking your hot dogs. I'm going to come knocking and be like, hey.
Yeah, and people are going to be looking for you. You know, if you're out in national parks, you got the rangers, you got everything else. They're going to be watching for people. So you can't just go out and do whatever you want willy-nilly, especially with the parks shutting down. Again, you know, there's that whole constitutional rights thing. But really what it boils down to is you need to be prepared for situations like this. And I think the vast majority of the population is realizing that they're not prepared at all. And that us preppers, us survivalists, I hate all these terms because we're just people. We're just normal people. We're just planning ahead. You know, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, everybody is realized that they're not as prepared as they should have been, and they're starting to learn what they actually need to do for the next time something happens.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just some of the trends that I've noticed through my own curiosity is just the food people are taking, the sort of like medicines and like sanitization sort of like things. People are really just taking so much that it's the scarcity concept. They take it because they feel like they're not going to have it. And, you know, it shortchanges a lot of people. Some like cause and effect, right? So today is what, April 3rd?
Yeah.
So one thing that people don't think about is there's a lot of people on government assistance. They use their, you know, debit cards to get their food, this, that, and the other. Those people typically get all their cards charged and they go shopping on the first, second, third. A lot of people get paid on the first, second, and third, and everyone floods these stores, and you create a lack of resources, which has a second and third order effect of, well, if you don't have it, if I can't get it and you have it, I'm going to wind up taking it from you. And as things become more locked down and more tight, that's going to just intensify every single day. And I only say this from experience because having served in combat overseas in the Middle East, that happens frequently. when there's an individual in their house and they need something and they know a neighbor 4 doors down has it, they're very likely to go and take it. It's just something when you say the word, being prepared, it's just saying, what do I truly need to sustain for 2 weeks to 4 weeks in my house without leaving? Identify those items, don't hoard them, go out and grab them, form a community and establish a good little kind of like network of reliability amongst your peers and amongst your local community. You'll be good to go. But some, hoarding Pringles chips and cases of soda. I mean, pick your poisons, I guess, but you can't. I don't like to make ramen noodles and soda, so
No.
Go for it. But I guess you can live on taco sauce in the mountains, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was in the news. You can live on taco sauce for 5 days or something like that. So it must be true. But I think we are coming together as a community now. It's taking a long time, but you're seeing it with people. Just the whole mask issue. You got people. Masks are scarce. They're hard to find now. You've had people step it up and are creating masks. And they're handing them out to people for free. And then you got the people combating them saying that mask isn't going to protect you. And then you've got people coming together saying they don't protect you, but here's what they do for other people. And I think people are getting educated on what's a good thing and what's a bad thing. And slowly people are coming around to form this community that's very important for us to all get through this.
Yeah, I truly think that's the outcome. People are forming community. They're forming bonds, and through those bonds, you'll have support. That's what it's about. Yeah,
and I think people are coming closer together with their families now too.
Yeah,
for the good or the bad. You're spending a lot more time together, which is difficult. But we just have to adjust the way we do things. But,
I mean, you could say in theory, could this be a new norm? Could this be a new norm for the next 6 months? Work from home, key personnel are moving around.
Right.
Is this a new pattern of life that everyone's going to have to adjust to? Possibly.
I kind of believe it is because I feel like the coronavirus is going to adjust. It's going to follow the pattern of the flu season. Sure. So flu season is just going to be more scary, and we're just going to have to be more sanitary during flu season. Now we were just, whatever. We just run around willy-nilly and we coughed and hacked on people and they got the flu. Some people died. Most people didn't. But now, this is a little bit more scary virus. So you're going to have to do a little bit more to protect yourselves and protect others.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely scary.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
So just a really quick different topic. Well, before I get going, if anybody is joining us and they're not joining us from my Colorado Mountain Man Survival Facebook page, if you type in the comments to ask a question, I'm probably not going to be able to see it unless I go around on Facebook. But if you're typing directly from my Facebook page, the Colorado Mountain Man Survival page on the live video, and you have a question, if you type it in there, it pops up immediately on my screen in front of us. All those other places that I shared this video to, if you type in those locations, I won't see it. So just so you know, if you really have an important question to ask, go to that Colorado Mountain Man Survival page and we'll do our best to answer this. This is kind of our scenario here. This is really more of a student-driven talk here. We're looking for you guys to reach out and ask us some questions if you have anything. Otherwise, me and Donny are going to, try to do some scenarios, but really we're looking for those questions and concerns that you guys have, or what would we do in a situation if you're not familiar with survival or bushcrafting or anything that we know. If you have a question, please ask, and we will do our best to answer that. All right. That being said, we were talking about earlier, a lot of people, I'll call them transplants. I suppose we're getting a lot of people moving here from Colorado, that are not familiar with the area. You and I know, we probably take stuff with us in our cars. What is your typical loadout if you're heading into the mountains for, say, We'll just say a day.
Yeah.
We'll go a day.
Yeah, well, so typically in my car, I have just one backpack, and that backpack is essentially an emergency pack. It's going to give me a couple different things right up front. If I have to, say I get stranded, and that's the situation, I have enough resources in that pack that I can stay inside my vehicle, stay warm, stay, well educated of, current weather or anything that's through radio, signaling devices. I've got a nice pack on the inside that's really going to enable me to sustain probably for about a week. Minimal chow, melt waters, things like that. But it's really coming down to my own personal preferences, and then who would I have in my truck with me. And 90% of the time, I'll have my two sons. So what I've actually done is I've created a pack that supports me at a minimal level, but supports them on a macro level, because they have the ability to withstand over time, but not the same as I do. So, I've got food in there that's customary to them, things they would like to eat, not a can of beans, but some, some good food. So inside that pack, there's things specific to them. And there's a few things specific to me, but it's meant for us to stay inside that vehicle, signal for help. Now, if we ever had to leave, there's other items on the inside as far as signaling devices, flashlights, any sort of emergency sort of situation. I'll have a means of signaling as we're moving out from place to place. And that's like, let's just say we're driving from Colorado Springs up to Leadville, or we're going to go up, over one of the, through like Monarch Pass or something like that. Fortunately, we travel on a lot of these main roads, unless we're going off on the side roads to do some, backcountry skiing or something. But the reality is, I just keep a real simple pack that I can carry with some sustainment items for them, sustainment items for me. The other side of this entire thing is my truck is full of things all the time. Majority of it is like animal hides, stones, flint knapping materials, buffalo hide. So there's quite a few things in there that would be of great use in the event of some sort of emergency. There's one thing though I will not leave without, and that is a come along. It's a little 6-foot winch that I can hook up to a tree, hook my truck up, and I can pull myself out of a ditch. That is an essential piece of gear that's in there. And with that, I have a couple chains, and I also have some 2-inch webbing that I could also hook up and just keep rocking with. So, it's kind of personal stuff, responsive to my own needs, but then, you might find people that you might need to help out as well. And I pulled plenty. I mean, I know you have, Jason, you pull plenty of people out of ditches because they're up in the mountains where they shouldn't be, with no 4-wheel drive. They don't have chains, and, you're helping them through that process. So it's kind of a mixed bag, personal stuff for my kids, and then, helping folks out.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of the same way. I've got my personal bag that, they're sitting behind me. That's the stuff I carry. That's my go bag, if you will. It's got everything that I need plus more, just in case. But in my vehicle, I have extra supplies for other people. I always have blankets. I always have coats. I do need to add a come along. But I've got a big duffel bag that's got basically survival supplies with food and water and anything to outfit and other people. And then I got another kit that's got car specific stuff. It does have a tow rope, fix a flat. I got one of those jumper boxes so I can jump my battery and things like that. So I've got a vehicle specific kit. I've got another person's survival bag, and then my own stuff. I'm pretty much ready to rock and roll at any time should anything happen. And I see people run off the roads all the time, get stranded all the time. And even myself, I've gotten stuck. Yeah. And fortunately, I had a whole fleet of Boy Scouts with me to dig me out. Not everybody else has a Boy Scout pack.
It was part of the training too. That's what it was. It was like, so here's your scenario. Your survival instructor gets stuck. What do you do?
Right. We got a couple questions here, Bill. Again, any suggestions on? I'll show it here. Books or online or natural edibles, medicinal plants, etc. Yeah.
So I mean, gosh, there's countless books out there on edible plants. Some of the ones that, let me think, I don't have anything within arm's grasp, but if you go to paleotracksurvival.com, I have a bookshelf there. And on that bookshelf, I have all sorts of edible plants and different suggestions. The most important thing, if you're going to find a book for edible plants, medicinal plants, you got to find something organic to that area. There's a lot of survival manuals that do a macro covering of like, this is a nettle, this is, chokecherry. These are these very common plants, but I really just recommend Yeah, there you go. Focusing on very specific plants organic to your area. So if you're in Utah, I mean, depending on where you're at, southern, northern, eastern, western, try to find a book specific to that. I have.
Yeah, this book is very broad. See, I've got those books. This is
Yeah.
very broad. This is not your go-to book. Since I think you said you're down in Texas, get books that are for Texas.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. I mean, you can Google just about anything these days and find those specific books, and you can break it down even more geographically to like a specific region. So, let's say you're down in like the Big Bend area around like Terlingua or Alpine, completely different flora and fauna down there compared to like northern Texas around Dallas or even up by like El Duro or Palo Duro Canyon. So, find those books organic to the area and read them. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, Frank Carissa here just threw out Cattail Bob. Absolutely, he's got a very good book for Colorado. I'm not sure how useful it is in other places. Cattail Bob does actually come out and teach with me up at our camp. So, if you were looking for one training, but the important thing to know about taking a class for wild edibles, you have to continue your education on that. You're not going to be able to remember. There in my small camp, there's something like 60 plants right within probably 100 yards of my tent, my main camp location. I guarantee you, if I throw 60 plants at you in a day, you're going to maybe remember one or two. So that if you get that book, you take a class, continue your education. What I tell people is go get a book specific to your location. So if you're in the Rockies, go get a Colorado's Rockies book. That's what Donnie and I have mostly of at this point in our lives. But what you need to do is take that book, walk out to a plant that you want to know what it is, sit down next to that book with that plant with your books and find that plant in every single book. That's the only way you're really going to learn. Is continuing your education.
So in the book that I just published called Earth Roamer, there's a concept that I like to teach, and it's called Knowing Your Straight Eight. And Jason brought up a really good point. So in his camp, he's got 65 plus different species of plants there. It's hard for a lot of people to remember a large number of plants, but if you focus on 8 plants, and what do I mean by 8 plants? Knowing your straight 8 is very simple. And I'm not talking about dandelions and like pine trees. Find 8 plants that are different than your common plants and know them for the entire year. What do I mean by that is know them in spring, summer, fall, winter. What do they look like? Let's say in Colorado for us, we teach plants a little bit differently because the elevations will impact how the plants grow, where they shade, how they flourish, all these different things. So when you remember a straight 8, you're remembering 8 plants for the entire season and you're memorizing the full functionality of that plant. As well as within that straight 8, if you identify, however you choose to break it up, plants that are for tooling or resources, cordages and poisons and glues and adhesives, as well as remembering plants that are edible and then plants that are medicinal, you're creating a huge knowledge advantage because you're not only just going to know those plants, what they look like in a book or during the summertime or in the spring when they're starting to blossom, but you'll know them the full cycle of the year. And that is a huge advantage when you're out in the backcountry and you're discovering this and seeing this and finding these unique places. And then all of a sudden you come across a species of plant that's in its fall it's already dropped its leaf. It still has a main stalk, but it's dogbane, and you can crush that dogbane, make cordage out of it, and use it for your survivability. So understanding the straight 8 is mastering 8 plants, the full year cycle within the resource, the medicinal value, as well as the edible value. Because I can tell you, Jason, hands down, it's hard to remember a bunch of plants. That's why we have books.
Yeah,
it truly is. And dandelions and thistles and nettles and all sorts of stuff. Very easy, very, very common. But find 8 plants in your area that are a little bit kind of out of your reach or requires a little bit more research and start to master them. Before you know it, you'll be able to cache 60, 70 plants in the back of your mind and you won't have any issues.
Yeah. Another thing that you can do is once you feel like you're confident with identifying that plant and you know that plant is, take somebody else out with you and teach them what you've learned. I think that is one thing that really drives things into your head is teaching somebody else what something is. You might annoy the crap out of them, but whatever. It's more for you learning. When I first started getting into some plants out there is I would walk with people and I would point out and be like, that is a dandelion. And people were like, oh my God, I don't care. It's not to teach them if they don't want to learn. It's to reinforce it in your own mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, just go get area specific books and do a little bit of research and see how people are saying if that's a good book or not. Another quick question here from Ginger. Any resources on how to make masks? I'm going to throw, yeah, I mean, really at this point, anything, I really hate this term. Anything is better than nothing because it can give you a false sense of security. But you got to do what you can. I'm going to throw a link out here that does show you how to make masks. But as far as materials go, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah. So one thing I'm doing, Ginger, right now is a lot of people are familiar with buffs, and a buff is a long tube. And what I'm simply doing is I'm using a buff. I'm pulling it up over my face and then folding it down over my nose, and I'm giving myself 2 layers. It's durable. I can wash it. It's going to last. Now, if you don't have a lot of buffs on hand, I typically wear them when I'm out in the backcountry. Go find a couple old sweatshirts, and those sleeves are relatively stretchy. You can cut those off at the shoulder and pull those up and over around your face, but find anything in a tubular-like fashion, and that will work well covering your mouth. And, you know, this is kind of that time where there's going to be a lot of resources out there, but I would just say any old shirt, if you got some sewing, a bandana's better, anything, something is better than nothing. But yeah, go to that link that Jason's throwing out there and check out some buffs. I mean, if you got real thick socks and a small head, I guess you can pull it over.
Yeah, I think
we tried that on my youngest son. That's why I'm saying that.
I think you're just looking for a densely packed material. You know, if you can find filters. I tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm been prepared. I bought these N95 masks. I probably have had these for at least 5 years, just because that's what I do. But when I'm going to wear these out in public, I'm not going to just wear this mask. I'm probably going to wear a scarf over top of it, not only because it gives me a dual layer of protection, but I also have a beard. Beards do create small gaps. So because, you know, I don't want to shave my beard, my wife will probably divorce me because she likes my beard. But it helps seal up those gaps, and it does give that dual layer. And then also extends the life of this, because this is a disposable mask, whereas that scarf that goes over top of it, I can bring it home and sanitize it and wash it. Whether that's the best thing to do, probably not, but it's an option. And will help prolong the life of stuff, you know. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a virologist or whatever the hell these people are that track viruses and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm just doing the best that I can with my knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just reading through the comments here, seeing what questions we have. If you have anything to add on to that, Donnie, feel free.
No, yeah, I mean, masks, anything over your face, something's better than nothing. You could use a schmog, any piece of fabric. If you got to tie it up, tie it up. If you want to get creative, sew it in a fashion where you could make it look a little bit more less hostile or aggressive in its form. But yeah, me personally, I'm using buffs. Those are great.
Yeah,
those are absolutely great.
I have somebody ask me if my booklet is available. I'm not really sure what that is. I don't have a booklet, so maybe if you can rephrase that question so I know what you're talking about. But yeah.
Cool.
No more questions at the moment. So if you guys got any, throw them out there. All right. So we were talking about cars. What do you have? Do you keep stuff in your home? I mean, we don't want to go into all your supplies, but what's your typical, what's your pantry look like?
So in my house, I have enough food, and it's not really my house and the place that I'm staying. I have 2 5-gallon buckets full of food, and each one of those buckets is a week and a half. And that is for extreme lockdown cases, as well as grab and go. A lot of preppers and people that prepare stuff, they like to have these beautiful shelves full of stuff. For me, I want buckets. I want 2 buckets that I can grab, throw in my truck. My kids know where they're at. and we can go. So that's kind of my flex food. But then also in my house, I have all sorts of just kind of, game meats that I've taken, salts, fats, sugars, lots of vodka. I don't drink it. I don't drink, but I use it for tinctures and sanitizers and things like that. And then when it comes to, other food acquisition, I mean, I do it year round, whether it's through hunting or fishing or trapping. So that's just kind of part of my normal pattern of life. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in a unique situation because in my personal space, I have enough stuff really designed to support my kids. For me, I can, embrace the suck and live in a cave for quite a period of time and be A-okay with it. So I've really based a lot of my own personal stuff for them. Some of the main things I've really focused on are vitamins, minerals, and things that will help battle common colds and common flus, because I don't want to leave the house with them. And the things that will draw me out of the house will be medical emergencies and food. So as long as I can keep them fed and healthy inside, there's no reason for me to leave. So those are kind of where I've stockpiled a little bit more as far as some of the medicinal stuff. But yeah, and then, I have a storage unit that I just have some natural storage stuff in, and I have some resources there. And then I have some caches.
Where exactly is that storage shed?
Get your pen and paper out. But yeah, and then I have things cached here and there, around the area.
Yeah, right. Enough said. Yeah, I think anybody that's been doing this for a while has had caches out in places, whether it's a storage shed in the city or a good friend's house across town, or a hole in the ground out in the mountain. We all have things, and obviously that we're not going to tell you where stuff's at. But yeah, draw a map. We're not drawing a map, but you should have things. I do have supplies in my house. I've got extended emergency food supplies. And it might not always be something you want to eat, but who cares if you're hungry? You have it. Same as Donny. I don't drink. I have a beer and a brandy every once, or a bourbon every once in a while, but I'm not a big drinker. But I do have vodka in my house for medicines. I have brandy for medicines. I have Everclear for medicines. But that's all I really use them for, and they sit away. And I've got extra medical supplies. I've been sitting on N95 masks for 5 years just in case. What you really need to do is think ahead of what, if anything should happen, what am I going to need to survive whatever set amount of time? 3 days, probably not good. 3 weeks, better. 3 months, pretty damn good. 3 years, now you're getting into big time prepping. That's a lot of money, a lot of storage space. So find whatever's reasonable for you and practical for you, and just do that. You don't need to run out and buy everything ahead of time. You don't need to buy 500 pounds of food tomorrow, but you can go buy every paycheck, every time you go to the grocery store, go buy $5 worth of stuff.
Yeah, it's that comes down to budgeting. I mean, if you know your budget and you say, all right, every month I've got an extra $20 after everything's taken care of, you could actually get quite a bit of resources with $20, whether it's, food, whether it's medicines, whether it's alcohol. Those are just kind of those long-term things that people think about. I think for folks like myself and like Jason, we just kind of say to ourselves, all right, we live in a state, the weather's very unpredictable. We have crazy fires. We have all sorts of things that could happen. We have train tracks that run through a lot of these cities. A train could be hauling some sort of chemical spill. The next thing you know, you get a knock on the door saying, sir, ma'am, you need to leave because there's been a chemical spill. Anything's possible. So what you do is, I always like to say, I like to play to the reality of the situation. Right now, the pandemic has presented a new reality, but for us in Colorado, our biggest things, for me, have always been fires. Why? How many fires have we had in the past 10 years where, I mean, there's been countless. How many fires have we had in the past 10 years where I've had to evacuate? We've had 2.
Right.
And that's one of those things where I play that in my head saying, all right, where am I going? I'm going up to Denver if it's in the South, because I have a good network of friends up there with my kids. These are the resources. I don't need to worry about documents. My folks have that in the Carolinas. You just kind of war game it and strategize, saying, what's the most important? Myself, my loved ones, I'm out.
Right.
And you roll.
Yeah, you just can't, like you say, strategize. What if you had to leave your house right now? What are you taking with you? Obviously, you're taking yourself, you're taking your loved ones, and then grabbing whatever you can out the door. Is my mic making noises
No,
on your side? Okay, it's just on my
you're
side.
good. Yeah, you're
Okay,
good.
so grab stuff. That's kind of annoying. Anyways, make sure you're prepared to leave out the door. Have your go bag sitting by the door in a closet or whatever. If you don't have a go bag, then think about the items that you want to grab heading out. Is that going to be a backpack full of stuff, or is that going to be your computer that has all the data and your important photos and stuff like that, whatever is most important to you, and also stuff that's going to help you survive or get through the situation. Real quick, hey Ruben, thanks for joining us. But the book that he was talking about, I did make a pamphlet up probably about 4 years ago that had a lot of the wild edibles or the plants that were in my location around camp. I was giving those out for students for the wild edible walks that we do. I haven't made any recently. They're not for sale. But I probably will eventually start making them again and just give them out to students when they come out for the class. But really, if you're looking for a good solid book that's Colorado specific, I really recommend Cattail Bob's book, or the one that Donny has here, the edible medicinal plants of the Rockies, the mushrooms. And there's another Colorado specific book that I was looking for, but I don't think it's here in my library. Now, a lot of books are good for teaching you how to identify. Not all books will teach you how to use the plants all the time. I did pick up Nicole Pillion's book. Nicole, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but this is a really great book. This is a medicinal book, how to use her stuff. I don't get paid for pitching her book. Nicole's, just very knowledgeable. It's a good book. I know, speaking of books, Donny has 2 books out. You have Scavenger, which I have, which I believe is probably a great book for psychology of survival. I think that's a great read to get your mind right, and just help you prepare for this kind of stuff. I've not picked up your new book, Earth Roamer. You want to tell everybody real quick about Earth Roamer?
Yeah, no worries. So Earth Roamer just came out like maybe a week and a half ago. And what it's about is, well, in my first book, Scavenger, there was one of the concepts I employed called earth roaming. And I got a lot of feedback. A lot of people wanted to know more about it. And as I was kind of taking shape, it was ironic because I was actually maybe about 8 or 9 chapters into writing that book. So Earth Roamer is about my approach to the outdoors and some of the concepts and the knowledge, skills, and abilities that people should know if they're looking to participate in earth roaming. And what earth roaming is kind of an idea and approach. It's kind of letting curiosity guide you from place to place. It's realizing that creativity is your number one survival skill. Also, that everything can come from nature. We have lived in a very modern society now, but for thousands of years, everything has come from the bush. And that's the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the primal sort of connections. And then, which I'll throw out this last one, which is very intuitive to a lot of people, but it's not having a plan. Now, in this day and age, everyone likes to have a plan. The reason why I say in earth roaming, you don't necessarily need a plan, because typically plans stifle the process of exploring and discovery. What that means is you don't say, hey, I'm going out in the bush for 10 days. This is where I'm going. You're going to educate yourself, but it's basically saying you have to be adaptive and you have to be flexible to what's in front of you. And sometimes when you see things in a distance, whether it's a cave, a sound, or a smell, it's okay to explore those things and kind of experience what they are. So I capture what earth roaming is. And then I always tell folks that I don't really consider myself a survivalist, a bushcrafter, a primitive skills guy, or really anything. Those are all skill sets that I like to use in conjunction with earth roaming. And I share some stories. I talk about shelter building and some of the basic concepts and fires and water acquisition. So it's a book that talks about how I go about earth roaming, taking into some of kind of the knowledge, skills, and abilities associated with bushcraft, survival, and primitive skills. What I don't do is say, if you're in an Arctic environment, you need to build these 3 shelters. When you're in the jungle, this is how you get water. What I do talk about is direct water consumption and understanding how that works in conjunction with non-direct water consumption. What do you have to do when you got to boil or purify? And what can you do when you can drink water? So I talk about it on a more specific level on how individuals can do a lot of these different things. I don't talk about this particular shelter. I talk about a concept of shelters, because Jason knows and I know that you could say, all right, I've made it to camp. I'm going to build a shelter here. You look up in the sky, you see dark clouds. The shelter you were just going to build is no more. You're finding something quick and easy and fast. So, but there's concepts to that. There's ideas behind that. And I really discover, I allow people to discover what those are in this book. And it's a really, I enjoyed writing it. Full of adventure, full of concepts and ideas, and I think a lot of people will like it. The downside is if you go on Amazon right now, there's kind of a delay with ordering it because of the virus, but there is the e-copy. In that e-copy, you can just download it. Yeah, I love writing books. I love writing, and I think it's someone who's sharing this with me needs to start writing more. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
But I think we've had this conversation before, but yeah, writing's important. I even have, I have a blog called the Cave Blog that I try to write on a couple times throughout the month to share different ideas and concepts. But yeah, the book Earth Roamer, it was it was a love. It was a passion. I got to write a lot of it out in the bush. I got to write some behind a computer, and it was definitely, it was well worth it. And I can't wait for more people to get it and kind of experience kind of where my mind and my body and my spirit have been for the past 10 to 15 years in my approach to the outdoors. I think it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be like an awakening for folks, but they're going to see some things in this book and say, holy cow, I never thought about that, or that makes complete sense. I feel this way when I do this. So yeah, check it out. Earth Roamer. You can find it on Amazon. If you Google Earth Roamer, one word, it's there. It's probably linked next to the Scavenger. You can go to the Donny Dust author page. You can see it there as well.
Yeah. Here's the video for it.
Yeah, I was just oh god, you know how long it took me to make this video?
Oh, I know. I feel your pain.
It was just photos, and there's music that goes with it that kind of like when the beat hits, it changes photos. Anyway, but
I'll drop the link in the YouTubes here or out there as soon as this is done playing. It's only a minute long.
Yeah, it's better with the music. No big deal. But yeah, you see some of these spots. So that's like Terlingua. That's Terlingua. There's some Colorado. There's all sorts of places that I've been to, and it gets really quick. Got chased by a bear, lightning, mountain lions. There's me. No big deal. But yeah, it's just about kind of experiencing the wild with the new outlook. I just want people to understand that this book doesn't make you part of a club. I'm not trying to preach like, here's your patch, here's your hat, welcome to the club. What it is something that you can do that's ultimately going to give you a sense of freedom and a sense of like comfort when you're out in the woods. And that's really what it's about, And if you want to create a patch, go for
it. Oh, sorry. I believe psychology of survival is huge, and you can use it in everyday life, whether you're surviving a pandemic or breaking down your car in the mountains or breaking an ankle out in the woods and have to come back. And a lot of people don't really focus on the psychology of survival. There's survival handbooks everywhere, and you can learn skills, or you can read about the skills, how to build a trap, how to do this, how to build a shelter, all the hands-on skills, but you can't get your mind trained until you go out there and actually experience it and do stuff and get that hands-on experience, knowledge, things like that. So I like about your books, at least I've not read Earth Roamer, but Scavenger, is I felt it read like a story, and it really, me being kind of a survival instructor and enjoying the outdoors and doing what I do, it really kind of touched me.
Cool.
Yeah, personally, deeply. You touched me, Donny. You touched me.
It goes along with that weird text you sent me the other day.
Yeah, that weird text. Yeah, awkward moments of texting people. But what I'm trying to get at is you if you read the psychology of survival, it starts making you think about other viewpoints and how if your mind isn't right, it's going to help get your mind right, and also help you. The book also helps you realize, I think, that everything you do need is out there. Mother Nature does have that stuff to provide. This stuff behind me just makes it a little bit easier, but if you lose this stuff, you need to know how to replace it with stuff. And everything back here can be replaced with something in Mother Nature. You just have to have the knowledge to do it and the time, because it's not easy. There's nothing fast about survival or bushcrafting. Everything takes time, and you have to have that patience.
Yeah. One of the things I talk about in Earthwormer, I talk about the no-tech, the low-tech, and the high-tech praxis, or those situations, or those environments. And I say a lot of people pick what environment they want to operate in. So there's times where I like to use the stuff behind me, which is all kind of primitive gear, or the no-tech, really. And then there's times where I balance in between, where I'm using maybe a wool blanket, a steel knife, and a hand drill set, and a clay pot, and that's my kit for going out. So in Earthwormer, I kind of break down those three praxis, those three high-tech, low-tech, and no-techs, and kind of give you some ideas of what the gears are and the gear associated with it, and say, find one and operate in it. Find one that's comfortable for you. And just like you said, find which things can be replaced in the bush. So if I've got a pack, or I've got 550 cord, and I'm operating in between that kind of that low-tech and high-tech praxis, what happens if I lose something in my high-tech world? How do I replace it? And that's kind of one of those concepts I try to really drive home in this, is saying you can operate in where you want, but have that survivability, that adaptability to say, if something is broken, missing, or I forgot, or I need, how do I go about doing it? And it's from the natural environment. So,
yeah, I really enjoy your teaching style. We kind of do things a little bit different in our the way we have our classes set up. For me, during my survival challenge, or whatever you want to call it, the challenge week, is I take people out and I give them a knife to start with. This is after a lot of training. I've already trained them how to do everything. And then they take with that knife and they create something primitively. They create something from Mother Nature. And once they've created that, then I give them the modern tool to replace it, so they can kind of see that Mother Nature will provide. Whereas when I've been out with you, things we've done is you've done reversed. You send people out with all the gear, and then you remove that gear as they replace it with the primitive tool, if you will.
Yeah.
And then they realize that they don't need the modern tool anymore. They got something that they made with their own two bare hands, which is pretty cool. Just different approaches for us, but it teaches the same thing. Nature will provide. You just have to know where to look.
Absolutely. That's what I think we come as, and other, outdoor educators and reliance educators, is saying we can give you solutions to these problems, but it's really up to you to identify where in the natural environment you can find those solutions and put them into action, because it's very unlikely we're going to be there. I mean, if you ever are in a real survival situation, you got a survival instructor with you, you're in good hands. But we'll give you a certain portion. We'll give you that 80% solution, and it's up to you to kind of discover and do the rest on your own. Yeah, for sure.
Another question here from Ginger. So I have tons of spare time right now. Any recommendations on what to prioritize for long term? She started seedlings, but it's obviously too cold to plant in Colorado right now.
Yeah. Well, ironically, if you're doing seedlings, I think one of the best things to start planting them in is an eggshell. Half an eggshell, throw some of that initial soil in there, and drop your seedlings. That the nitrates from that eggshell will really definitely help. But I always focus on medicines. That's typically what gets people, is getting sick or injuries. So I would definitely say try to learn some basic first aid, some wilderness first aid, just some baseline stuff, whether it's through books or online videos, whatever. But try and learn some good medical skills, and then understand medicines, what works well for you and maybe your particular loved ones. Those are really great for kind of the long term, because that's when people go, I don't want to say they go crazy, but that's when people have to leave their comfort zones to go get medicines or go get help. I mean, I can give my kids stitches. It's not what I would like to do, but it's something I can do. And in an event that I have to like go to a hospital where there's potentially sick people there, I want to avoid that at all costs, especially if I got to bring my 11-year-old son to get stitches. So yeah, medicines, medical supplies, those will take you out in a heartbeat.
You need to learn how to use everything. I highly recommend taking some sort of medical class, whether Donny said wellness first aid, first responder, EMT. If you got the time, go take that. You don't have to be an EMT to go take those classes at college. Right now, obviously, there's colleges not in session. Quick pitch. I do have a wilderness first responder class coming up this summer if you're interested in wilderness skills. But educate yourself, whether it's with me or with somebody else. I don't care. Educate yourself. But we were talking about vodka and brandy earlier. What you want to tell them about Old Man's Beard?
Yeah. So one thing I like to do is I like to make some tinctures at a time. And, about 3 weeks ago, my boys and I, we went out and collected up some usnea, or otherwise known as Old Man's Beard, to make some tinctures that we could have about 5 or 6 weeks later. And long story short, we took some jars, filled them full of usnea, poured some 70 proof vodka on it. And over time, there's this weird chemical reaction. And I don't know all the science behind it, but it extracts all the goodness from the usnea. And then when you pull the usnea out, you'll have that liquid left over. You'll do a second boil of that usnea inside of a pot and get the last remnants out, add it to your tincture. And what that's going to do is it's kind of a natural way to fight colds, and so not like full-blown flu, but it's going to help prevent flu. It's kind of like a natural cold medicine that's going to really help you out, because that's going to be one of those things that can be shorthanded in the upcoming months. But yeah, I mean, the alcohol is part of the tincture process that does the extraction of all the the good values from that thing. But you can do a lot. I mean, there's millions of tinctures. There's people that run a lot of different apothecary sites that focus on more traditional medicines using salves and tinctures and things to that extent. But yeah, alcohol is good. I mean, the Everclear and the vodka, you make hand sanitizers and cleaning agents. You can treat a wound with it. I mean, it's not the most ideal thing to treat a wound with, but because it's very, very harsh, but like an iodine or some sort of antiseptic is pretty good. Yeah, there's some right there. But yeah, I mean, if you're thinking long term, okay, and you're going to try and plant some foods, and let's say you got some space, start doing your seeding now. Start stockpiling up on things that have a primary, a secondary, even a tertiary function. You know what I mean? Like alcohol is a great thing. You can consume it, you can cleanse with it, you can do tinctures with it, do quite a bit with it. So that'd be kind of my overall recommendation. The crazy thing is when it comes to preparing your medical knowledge and your understanding of kind of using certain drugs and medications, that's really priceless. I really gained a lot of my exposure and experiences with the medical field when I was in the military as a 19-year-old, and that has just been something I have carried on continuously all the way up until today, to the point now where I can go work on a movie set as a remote set medic and cater to an entire cast and crew of 100 people, and I'm the sole medic on that site, treating everything from snake bites to, someone going in anaphylactic shock to doing medevacs. I mean, you name it. I've built up a knowledge, and I want to say medical knowledge, I want to say is more important than like survival skill knowledge, but that is some stuff that will save life in your home. And it's really, really important to kind of just take the time, read up on things, CPR, child, infant, adult, know how to work an AED, understand what this sign is, what this symptom is, and you could actually go quite a long way with that. I would take Jason's Wolfer class. I need to check mine. I think mine expires this year, so I might be joining you on that.
Right on. The nice thing about the wilderness first responder as opposed to a first responder class is wilderness first responder teaches you how to improvise. Typically, a first responder class, you have an ambulance or you have a big survival kit. You have everything in your home ready for it. You got the gauzes and the bandages and the splints and the whole 9 yards. Whereas wilderness first responder is, what do I do if I don't have anything or I have very minimal skills? So that's why I would, if you get a chance, whether it's again me or somebody else, I would take a wilderness first responder class over a first responder class any day. You're learning the same exact skills, only you're taking it to the next level.
Yeah. One thing that makes a wolfer or the wilderness first responder really great is that some people don't realize that when you're an hour or more away from a medical facility, how important that time is. Because let's say you're an hour out and the nearest hospital is an hour and 30 minutes away. That means if you got a transport or a medevac needs to get to that person, that's an hour and a half worth of time. That person could bleed out, hemorrhage. I mean, anything could happen. And that's something that's covered in those wilderness first responders courses, is saying, hey, realize you are potentially far out from a major medical facility. These are the things you need to implement and do to keep that patient alive. It's priceless. It's truly priceless.
And they're not going to come in and drop a helicopter on top of you. It just doesn't happen. That's the movies. They have to plan. They have to, for the lack of a better term, is it worth them to send out a helicopter to get you where that helicopter could potentially crash and kill the crew or whatever? Is it logistically possible for them to land where you're at? There's so many different things. What they're going to end up doing is they're going to send a team out to you. And then if it takes an hour to walk to you normally, then it's going to take them 3 to 5 hours at least to probably get to you, because they don't want to put themselves in danger. Because as a first responder, your number one priority is yourself. Your second priority is the victim. Because now if I'm the first responder and I get hurt, now what? So they're making sure that they're getting to you safely. And most of the time when people are injured out in the backcountry, they're not in an easily accessible spot. So it takes hours longer to them to get to you. So if you know those skills yourself, you're saving that time, and you could potentially save a life because you can get to somebody in minutes. Whereas a first responder, like an EMT or paramedic, they're hours away, even if they're really only 20 minutes away. So medical skills are huge, and I think it's a very much overlooked skill in the survival world, bushcrafting and all that stuff.
I ran a single day first aid class, and I think more people walked away from that with just a new understanding of just basic first aid. And it is the most basic of basic first aids, but it's really just kind of an exposure to say, if this is all new to you, you might want to dig a little bit deeper, because there are, requirements out there. If you are in the backcountry, or I like to use this scenario, driving down Highway 25, a lady got hit in a car. She had a femoral bleed. I was able to do a tourniquet, pull her forehead back from sliding over her face. And myself and one other person talked to this lady, prevented her from bleeding out while paramedics kind of rolled up. And I don't want to say, who's the real first responder, but typically it's civilians that will get out of their car are really those first responders to some of those major accidents and events that you hear happening on all highways throughout the U.S. And medical training will give it to you. It will help you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see, what was the next question? I will throw that out there. We do have a class coming up. I think we only have room for one more. Granted, it is scheduled for
17th and 18th.
17th and 18th of this month. We're still going to be in the quarantine, but this class will be run at my camp out in the mountains, private land, and we are going to take precautions for that class. I'm bringing masks for everybody to wear. We'll keep the social distancing. So, we're doing the best that we can. And really, what better to isolate yourself than in the mountains, away from people, with two survival instructors from Colorado. But
it's still going. We're going to exercise all the right proper precautions. So we're good to go for sure.
Hold on a second here.
Hopefully, things do get better across the board, so people can start signing up for classes and kind of getting out there and doing some of the things they need to do as far as educating themselves. What are three important things for newbie roamers to be aware of on their first? And I'm reading this very close. Sorry.
What are three important things for newbie roamers to be aware of on their first trip outdoors alone?
Yeah, outdoors alone. So first and foremost, if you're going out alone, you definitely need to educate some folks on where you're going to be or a general area that you're going to be operating in. Even though one of the concepts within earthworming is not having a plan, that means not having a plan of saying being flexible when you're seeing things and discovering things. So leave a general contingency plan, where you're going, how long you're going to be out there, some of the resources you're taking with you. Leave it with a loved one and say, hey, if I'm not back in 2 days, this is what I need you to do. Contact the authorities. I need help, something to that extent. So a general kind of emergency plan is definitely important. Also understanding what your comfort levels are. For me, I can operate in a certain kind of world. And for some folks, that is not even a feasible kind of thing for them. They don't want to walk around in a loincloth and animal skins and live in a cave for a period. I don't mind it, but that's not for everyone. So kind of understanding what your comfort levels are. If it's your first time going out alone and you're staying out overnight, pack everything. Because that first time you're out there, and let's say you walk 5 miles out, you stay the night, and you walk 5 miles back, you'll quickly realize, I didn't need this, I didn't need this, I should have brought this, and you'll start to kind of tweak your overall gear set. And from that tweaking of that gear set, you'll establish what I like to call your pattern of life. Your pattern of life are the things that you kind of find the most comforts in and that you're really kind of needing for those solo overnights. And then from there, you'll start to modify and tweak, saying, all right, maybe push the limits on this. Instead of bringing a sleeping bag, let me bring a blanket. Instead of a tent, let me bring a tarp. And then instead of a tarp, that looks like a great little cave. Hopefully it's not occupied by me. But and then some of the other things to be aware of is definitely if you're in Colorado or really anywhere, just the overall environment where you're at. I would say the flora, the fauna, the weather, the kind of extremes, because that is something that will catch people off guard. Jason can attest to this all the time. You could be teaching a class, you could be engaging people, you could be doing a lot of things. You pick your head up and there are just nothing but black clouds overhead and you know the weather's coming. So kind of just be aware seasonally of what's in that area. And then, you know, that kind of segues into the animals. What sort of threats, whether it's something that will sting you, bite you, envenomate you, or something that could potentially pose a threat like some sort of attack. Why do I say attacks? Is it the rut? Is it a mating season? Is it something where animals are a little bit more aggressive, where they're looking for food or they're looking for mates? So kind of know that overall environment, study those things, and then that will help dictate your overall earth roam.
Yeah, situational awareness is huge when you're out there. You know, we all get out there and we get lost in the beauty of the scenery. That it's a pretty mountain, it's a pretty forest, it's a pretty deer, whatever. You need to be aware. I mean, enjoy that. We're out there to enjoy that stuff. Absolutely enjoy that. But also pay attention to the potential risks and the dangers and how to circumvent or get around those dangers, you know. So well, I know, Donnie, when you're going out, you're probably like me. Your mind is just all the time, everywhere. You're looking at everything. You're feeling everything. You're sensing everything. You're enjoying being out there.
Absolutely.
But, you know, every part of you is also sensing the dangers. And that all comes with experience of being out there, recognizing things. So it's just, I would say with your first trip out, make it small. Don't go big the first time. Just go for a short overnight. It's just a few miles out or something like that. But really, I don't know if you touched on it, but the key thing before you do go out, before you step foot out of your door, make sure you tell somebody where you're going, you know, and you can always leave a plan at your house, but yeah, always tell somebody where you're going and when you're going to come back. So that way they know if you are in trouble, they know where to look for you, and do not deviate from that plan. You know, if you get down there and you're like, oh, well, I told people that I was going to go to Mount Herman, but instead I'm going to go to Pikes Peak because Pikes Peak is beautiful today. You're setting yourself up for trouble. All right.
Oh, good.
No,
I was just going to say that one of those things where you get lost out in the bush. In my book, I call it keyholing. So sometimes if we keyhole, it looks like we're only focusing on kind of one thing and we kind of lose track of everything. Exactly as we're looking through a keyhole, we can only see a small amount. And that's what we want to avoid. That's where you don't pay attention to the weather, and you're not looking at, you're walking through a, bear country. We want to avoid that keyhole, and situational awareness will ultimately break the keyhole for us, and we'll be much safer and much more enjoyable for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No more questions popped up right now. Anybody else out there have anything?
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Donnie? What do you got?
Gosh, well, I think, one of the things that I'm struggling with right now, teaching skills and, wanting to be outside is, this new pattern of life for people that are stuck inside and they're working from homes. There's actually a larger number of people outside, especially in some of these wild places. And what I would just like to do is, if we could all just kind of make an effort as the population grows, as people venture outside, let's just pick up our trash. Let's do our due diligence to kind of keeping our wild places wild and just kind of taking care of them. Because I know I do. I know Jason does. You'll go for a hike with your family. You'll do something and you'll come across just cans and bags and wrappers. And some of those have been there in the past 24, 48 hours. You'll learn that in the tracking class, by the way. No big deal. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot more activity outside. Let's just make sure we can kind of still police up our own and pick up some of that trash. It's huge. That's one of those things that it just drives me up the wall. I see these big heaps of trash and beer cans, and everyone has a garbage at their house. Take your trash with you and throw it away.
Right. Yeah.
It kills me, man.
Absolutely. It's just that easy. So predictions on when COVID-19, the quarantine, everything is going to end. Have anything?
Predictions? I don't think it is. I think this is going to. I think there's going to be an ebb and a flow. It's going to be like a new seasonal flu. I do believe we are establishing our new pattern of life and how we interact in society. I truly believe that all of the steps are leading up to kind of a complete lockdown. The local states, in our particular state, the governor is giving us plenty of opportunities to implement a good practice of social distancing, staying at home, not going out. And now we're putting on masks every time we go out. If we're not getting the results that we need and that he wants to see, it's going to be a complete lockdown. So I envision in the next 3 weeks, we're going to go to a complete lockdown if we are not getting those numbers to drop in reported cases and then confirmed cases.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you. And people have been ignoring the quarantine or being rebels up to this point, but I think it's getting real for people now, and all the naysayers are going, maybe I should start paying attention. They're not all that way. Not everybody's coming around. You got a lot of stubborn, hard-headed people out there, but me being one of them. But I'm taking the coronavirus, COVID-19, very seriously. I'm taking all the precautions I can, if not for me, for my wife, my kids, and for my people, my students that I want to eventually come back out and see again. But I think we're going to follow this curve, like Donnie was saying, but it's going to follow the flu virus. When the flu is rampant, corona is going to be rampant. During the summer, it's not always so bad, but it doesn't go away. It's still there. So we're going to have to adjust our lifestyle from here on out until we figure out how to totally eradicate viruses, which I don't think is ever going to happen. And I think Mother Nature is teaching us a lesson right now, and we all need to become students and listen and pay attention.
Oh yeah. I don't know if that's not a shameful plug to take survival classes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, right.
No,
it wasn't meant to be a plug, but it is what it is. But
it was perfect. No, it's Jason. You're 100% right, without a doubt.
Yeah. So there was the next question. What season can you harvest usnea? Usnea is one of those things that you can harvest all year long. It's always out there. It grows mostly on pine trees. Guess what? We're in Colorado. That's damn near all we have. It's out there everywhere. You might have to get off the beaten path a little bit, but it's out there 365 days a year.
Yeah, it's a great plant. It really is. It's a great plant.
Pat, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully your phone will last a few minutes longer. Oh, so here's a good one for you. Wearing a loincloth, an appropriate step towards social distancing in public. I think it works.
Of course, it would come from Nick. No big deal. Yeah, so it's a great question, Nick. Let me go into little details. I believe it works. It's 50-50. It could draw in a lot of people as far as saying, oh, look at this guy in the woods wearing a loincloth. And it's definitely going to keep a lot of people away saying, look at this guy wearing a loincloth in the woods. Yeah. I like it. It's comfortable. It's breathable. It works really well. I mean, and if no one's around, you can just take it off. It's rough here in Colorado because it was so nice a couple days ago. And then now we got snow yesterday and it's cold today. But I think Monday, Tuesday, like this week is supposed to be in the 70s. So I'm going out in the mountains, be wearing nothing but loincloth and animal skins. And
hopefully you'll put at least some socks on for our tracking class here in a couple of weeks.
I will. Yeah. I just made a new pair of sandals. I made my springtime sandals. So like, ironically, being this like, stuck inside for periods, I've actually got a lot of like projects done. I've made new, vests and all sorts of stuff. So it's working out. It's working out. But the more time I'm stuck inside, the more things I make that probably don't need to be worn in public. So.
Yeah. Right. Next question is for me. Are you still selling pre-built bug out survival kit packs? A little information. When I first started getting out into the survival business world, that's kind of how I started going. I realized that survival was cool and popular and prepping and all that, and so I went out and started researching bug out bags and survival kits. I never heard of them before, at least what they were called. I always had one. I just didn't know they had a name. And I was like, oh, I know what those are. Yeah, I've got one in my car. So I started going and looking to see what's out there as far as prefab for survival kits, and they're all crap. They're all complete junk. So I actually went and bought like 5 or 6 of them, and half the stuff that came to me was broken. It's those prefab survival kits that are $100 or whatever. They're garbage. Don't buy them. They're not worth your time. So what I started to do was I started building custom survival kits for people. And then I realized as I was selling these quality bug out bags to people that nobody knew how to use the gear that was in it. So I would spend hours on the telephone with people or emails, hundreds of email exchanges, trying to help people over the phone, teach them how to use their bug out bag. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This can't happen. So I started doing consulting and library talks and things like that to teach people how to use those bug out bags. And it just developed into what I am now. Nice. So to answer the question is, yes, I still do build bug out bags, survival kits for people. It's not my primary focus anymore. I'm teaching people how to use those kits or how to go with very minimalistic kits, just the necessary stuff. But yeah, if you're interested in me helping you build a bug out bag, I will absolutely help you. If I don't sell you the stuff, I will tell you the best stuff to put into it, and you can go build it yourself, which is ideally the best thing for you to do. Because I'll be honest with you, I can't always give you the best prices. But anyways, yes, I do sell bug out bags, but I don't sell prefab ones. I sit with you, whether it's over the phone or on email, and I work it out with you, figure out what you have, what you need, and we come up with a plan, and we make one custom for you. It's a little bit involved, but at least you walk away with something that you're going to use. Let's see. Watching from Ireland. Awesome. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us from Ireland. Oh, do you have your sandals on?
No, I don't. I'm barefoot at the moment. I don't even have pants on. I can't let this thing scroll too low.
Neither do I. Notice I haven't stood up. But, yeah. Well, that's all the questions for now. Do you have anything else to add?
No, man. We've covered. What's it been, an hour and a half? That's pretty good.
Hour and a half. Yeah, it feels like 5 minutes. I think the biggest thing for people, honestly, to focus on right now, over top of gathering gear is get your mind right. Psychology, survival. You do need to have a certain amount of fear in what's going on right now. Fear can be your friend. It's panic that's not your friend. You need to figure out how to face that fear without panicking and control yourself. You can't control everything else that's going on around out there. You can only control yourself, how you react, and how you react. You want to be proactive if you can, but a lot of people right now are in a reactive situation. Make sure that reactive situation has at least a little bit of thought process behind it, and you're making good choices. I tell my kids that all the time. Make good choices. They hate me. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, I absolutely agree with it all. I think it's very important for people, as they have the ability now, to still go out and obtain some resources, to do so. Let's not hoard resources. Let's take what we need over a duration of time. The mentality of who we are really builds into kind of our resiliency. We need to be and understand that we are a very, very resilient sort of species, if you will. We have the ability to adapt and overcome. And I just think this is going to be a trying time. But if we lay in fear and we only respond through fear, we're never going to really grow through action or positivity. So every day you're here, I always like to think of myself, if you haven't written your book yet, if you haven't worked on your side hustle, or you haven't started that manuscript or started writing articles or started that craft that you've wanted to learn, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to really hone in on some of these skills, these knowledge, skills, and abilities as people are stuck at home. So now is the time to really kind of gather up as much information as you can and really start driving into some of those long-term thinking concepts. All right, what would I do in the next 30 days if I can't leave my house? Do some reverse planning. What skills should I know if I have to wind up leaving my house and going to another location? What are those skills associated? So now's the time. I mean, you got the time. It's almost mandated by the president. Now is the time to stay at home. Use this time to your advantage. Don't overlook it. Be safe. Be smart. Take care of each other, and we won't go wrong.
Yeah, keep your mind right. Really, just to keep occupied. I mean, Donny, you were on a loan.
Yeah.
Right.
I cut wood.
There you go. I mean, my thought is the hardest part, if I had to be out there like that, is the mental aspect of it. Food is one thing, but if you can't keep it together mentally.
Yeah.
But you were in this situation. Can you speak to it more than I can?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my time on a loan was short. However, though, the thing that brought me out of a loan was not my mental game. Fortunately, I have been through quite a bit in my life that I'm not saying I'm tougher than most. I'm more resilient than most. What I mean by that is whether it's been in the military, having a heart attack, or just the days and the weeks and the months that I've spent out in the bush by myself. I have built up a mental resiliency to understanding that I'll be okay. And through that resiliency, I know the steps that I need to take to maintain it and reinforce it and build upon it. And on a loan, you've got nothing but time. You got you and the camera and the environment. For me, I was not worried about my mental game playing into me. That wasn't something I was worried about. But I'm very unique in that situation. For a lot of other folks, when this starts thinking and starts downplaying or upplaying things, that's where you become kind of unstable. Your resiliency drops and you become exposed to your own sort of thoughts. And through that exposure comes compromise. And through that compromise comes, fear, and then, a variety of other emotions can come from it. So yeah, it's definitely something that people are going to be walking away from this situation a lot stronger, having lived through it, or getting stuck with the coronavirus and then adapting and overcoming and living with it. But I think for most folks, a resilient mind is extremely important. Ironically, that's one of the, some of the lectures that I provide to various groups is on the resilient mind. And the resilient mind is one of the strongest things, because a lot of people today, they don't work on their resiliency. They don't practice some of those resilient steps to build into their own personal resiliency. When something bad happens, it's the end of their world and they have no way to overcome it. Being resilient is allowing you to say, all right, this is the problem. It's a 1 minute problem that's not going to impact the other, 23 hours and 59 minutes of this day. It's a 1 minute problem. I'm going to address the problem and I'm going to move on. And I think for a lot of survivalists and bushcrafters and skills practitioners, they're presented with problems more often than most people, and they have a way of dealing with it through a skill, through a knowledge, through an ability, and they move on. So in this current situation, we need to start developing that resilient mind, understanding those knowledge, skills, and ability so we can move on. And for me, that's what my entire first book was really about, is resiliency of the mind. Even on my webpage, paleotracksurvival.com, if you look at half of the books that I recommend, it's on being mentally strong, the resiliency, stoicism, all these things really build into the moral fabric and the character of who that person is and how they go about living free and being resilient, because that's what we are. We're just a resilient mass of cells and muscles. I mean, it's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You have to take baby steps when you're dealing with a survival situation or whatever. You don't want to look, if you look at the big picture of coronavirus, oh my God, the whole nation is getting this virus. What do I do? Well, you can't fix the nation, but you can fix yourself. Or, I'm in a car accident, or I ran off the side of a cliff in my car. Now I'm trapped in my car. Oh my God, how do I get to, how does the paramedic find me? Well, so your first step is get out of the car.
We're not there yet.
Right. Yeah. You don't think too far ahead. I mean, you do have to project into the future a little bit, but what are your immediate needs? What is immediately going to get you out of that situation? How do you immediately get safe or handle that immediate problem? And I think that's what people like me and Donny are, is we're good at taking baby steps, baby bites out of a problem, if you will, and just tackling little things at a time so that eventually we knock down that huge wall that's in front of us.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the ways that I've learned this over the years, military, search and rescues, heart attack, all this sort of stuff, is really, those are all really important. But flint napping has been the one thing, and I'm plugging it. That is the one thing that requires baby steps like you would not believe. There's many people that pick up stone and they think, oh, I'll be able to, but it is like every hit, everything you do matters. One hit can impact the entire flow of the stone. And for me, that's been one of those things where it takes a great deal of time to learn that skill, to be knowledgeable at it and have certain abilities within it. And that is the perfect definition of being resilient, because how many days I'd have the beautiful biface like that big and I'd hit it wrong and I'd snap in half and I'd throw it, but then I would go back and I would readdress it and say, what did I do wrong? How can I adapt and overcome? It's just it's really truly who we are, and we all have it in us, but we just need to build upon it. And Jason and myself, we offer a variety of courses that teach us skills, but also teaches the knowledge associated with those skills, the abilities associated with that knowledge and skill, but then also the adaptability into all those sort of unique situations.
Yeah, and you pick up that psychology along the way. That's really not something that we can teach you. It's something that you have to learn on your own, but we kind of push you in the right direction, and it really helps. But that being said, me and Donny, I think we work well together. We're going to try to do a broadcast like this maybe once a week. If you guys are interested in that and seeing me and him banter back and forth about stuff, let us know down in the comments. Email us, call us, whatever. Let us know that you enjoyed this, and we'll make it happen. We'd like to eventually work our way up to, instead of just doing a talk like this, actually show you some skill and work together on this. I think for our business, for every business out there, we have to adapt to this potential new way of life. And if we can't see each other, if we can't interact with each other, a lot of stuff is going to have to be online. So this might be the future or at least part of our future of teaching you guys skills, we're going to have to do it through channels like this. And we're working on it. I'm working on getting online stuff set up for you. You know, I think this is a great forum here for us to get some skills out to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you think that's a great idea, let us know and we'll make it happen. And just give us ideas of what you guys want to talk about. You have anything to add to that, Donnie?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely feel free to reach out to Jason or I and send us some questions in advance. So then, you know, if you have questions about specific survival concepts, being prepared for anything related to Corona, we'll answer those to the best of our knowledge, skills, and abilities. But it can also help kind of the flow a little bit and kind of put us on some really interesting topics. So fire any questions in advance. And I enjoy this. Those that, you know, tuned in, thanks for the questions. It was a good time. And I think this is probably going to be a way forward in the upcoming weeks and months as far as one, maintaining community within that survival, bushcraft kind of primitive skills community, as well as bringing people into that community, new members that we would love to bring into this community, and start supplying them with a little bit of, you know, tidbits on things that they can start researching on their own to maybe make their own personal selves and their families a little bit safer, a little bit more wiser, and, you know, healthier during this time.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Well, I mean, you probably all saw the link scroll along. If you'd like to see this kind of stuff, I did set up a donation button, you know, for a class type scenario. But if you don't like just sending donations, if you want to support Donnie and what he does, check out his book. He's got Earth Roamer and Scavenger. Both. Well, can't speak to Earth Roamer, but if it's anything like Scavenger, it's a freaking awesome book. I don't write books yet, but I do have, you know, t-shirts and hats. So, you know, if you want to send me a couple, you know, buy a t-shirt and hat, that supports me when I'm not able to run classes. We have one more slot, I think, for the tracking class that's coming up here in a couple weeks. Again, if you're coming out to that tracking class, there are some safety protocols that we're putting in place to make sure everybody's safe. But look for classes, you know, potentially in the future. If this tracking class goes well, I think it'll be a big hit. But
could be a good one.
I think it's going to be great.
It'll be really fun. Really fun.
But thanks everybody for joining us. Paleo Track Survival, Donnie Dust, and the Surviving University, and Jason Marsteiner. That's myself. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Anything else, Donnie?
No, thanks for coming out, everyone. Jason, as always, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Take care, everybody. Stay well. Stay healthy.